play now. Put me in the game now. I came here to prove it, I'm ready to do it, I can't be afraid now. Put me on the stage now, I'm ready to rage now. I feel like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. This time, like the last time, you better get ready to race to the top. I'm ready to do this, show you what the truth is. I step on the field, it's time to get real, I'm feeling so ruthless. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Yeah. So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made of. Get in the game, your moment of fame, show them what you made of. It's time that we stand up, it's time that we man up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up. My time, nothing can keep me from reaching the top. This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride. I'm ready to throw down, it's time for the showdown. I'm ready to rise, don't be surprised, I'll take on the world now. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We reaching the top, we reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We're reaching the top.
The field is rolling on the back straightaway.
Get ready, this is going to be tight. Out of turn 4, ladies and gentlemen. The All-American 400 is underway.
Gotta be careful, the bumps here can get you every time. Entering the corner, exiting the corner.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up to him!
Oh my God!
Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Kansas Speedway for round 32 of the NASCAR iRacing series. Friday night top split of the open version of this series, and it is another 1.5 mile racetrack, but it is probably the one that favors to highline the most. The progressive banking out this place makes it a very top side racetrack, but these cars, all their downforce, are going to be full throttle for a lot of this race. We've got about half the Coke Series field with us today, doing practice basically for their event on Tuesday night. So this is set to be an absolute cracker on the iRacing Esports Network and presented by SimSpeed TV. My name is Ryan Jones, and alongside me, as always, Justin Prince and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes. Justin, looking forward to this one here at Kansas, 134 laps ahead of us.
Yes, indeed, and this is going to be an important race for many of the drivers because throughout the week, some of the various technical alliances which have been assisting some of the Coke drivers for Tuesday have had some struggles, to say the least. There's been conditions where drivers have struggled with looseness coming off the corner. There's been times where drivers have snapped off the top line. There's been times people have smashed into the outside safer barrier. And there's been mixes of strategies and tire fall off that have been crucial to find the exact mark for. The cooler the track tip, the harder it's going to be to build a car for this week's event, to say the very least, for Tuesday's Coke race. But as well, for this NIS race tonight, because it's so difficult to carry the amount of speed you need to at the right pace you need to be able to be ready to go for a race like this. Not just qualifying trim, but I mean long run pace where fall off can be at a minimum of maybe about 1.4 to 1.6 seconds if you've got a strong car. And if you have a car where you're forced to lift too much on the long run, you're going to get swallowed alive by the field tonight.
Indeed, you are. How important is qualifying going to be today? Not as important as it was last week at the Roval, where we also saw a lot of Coke Series drivers in action. No cautions at that track, no cautions in road racing on iRacing, but we're back on the oval today, and probably expects at least one caution today. The last two top split events for the series this week, running 2 days ago and 3 days ago, had 5 and 4 cautions respectively, along with 5 cautions, went into overtime. So keep an eye on that. Fuel window as well means overtime could make things a little bit dicey, expecting it to be a 2-stop strategy. About 55 laps available in that tank once you fill it all the way up. But right now,
to correct you on that, I would go as high as 64, but the main thing is, it is a 2-stopper in theory for the tires mainly, and that it can be so difficult to save that amount of gas unless you clutch and coast a ton, which may be something drivers try if we get a quick caution. If we don't get the quick caution, I think you wouldn't be surprised to see many drivers try that 2-stop at, say, 50 or 100 and try and go to the end of run there, mix it up a little bit, maybe go complete thirds like you usually see on Tuesdays where it'd be a 40 and then about maybe a 90 then to the checker flag. There's a bunch of different strategies you may see tonight play out in this race.
in qualifying, we've currently got Michael Loser up on the pole 0.003 of a second over Justin Bolton. He's got in hand. Dylan Duvall, Chris Shearburn, Rael Fowler make up the rest of your top 5. 21 drivers have put times down at the moment. Here's Brendan Kohler coming to the line, currently 12th, looking to improve on that marker. He slips to 13th. Rosie crosses the line and then puts himself back up to 7th with a solid final lap there. Just under 50 seconds left in the session.
More when you're trying to wheel it from the bottom up to the top of the corner. It's much more quicker and better on the tire mileage for some if you just run it along the top after about 5-10 laps. In other words, once that track starts to converge up to the top line, if you're stuck on the bottom, you're going to need to find a hole in fairly quickly. Otherwise, you're going to get freight trained and or have your tires completely fried.
You mentioned the first couple of laps. You might be able to make that bottom side work, Justin, purely based off the high downforce. I think I said low downforce earlier on, but the high downforce of these cars. You might be able to work it down there full throttle for a little while, but yeah, sooner or later, it's going to migrate to the top, and you're going to want to be up there quick, smart. Here's your starting grid then for Kansas Speedway tonight. Ryan Michael Loser nabs the pole over Justin Bolton in second. Dylan DeVole and Seth the Merchant share the second row of the grid. Chris Shearburn and Garrett Maines line up on row 3. Ray Alfalla and Zach Novak 7th and 8th. Top 10 rounded out by Brendan John Kohler and Patrick Moose.
Boyd Hogan in 11th spot tonight, a 29.3 for him, about 0.2 of a second off the pole. He'll start alongside his teammate Justin Levine. Ocean Walsh back in the Nexus machine starts off the top positions right along behind Case and Plot and Company. Tucker Minter starts 15th, Mac Forkapaz starts in 16th for low line, while Carson Hosevar will start in P17, one of the Bobby Dale Earnhardt Legacy Esports short track team members. Ryan Doucette, Will Norden, and Mike Conti round out your top 20.
Looking back to 21st, you'll find Santiago Torres, Jimmy Mullis next to him, Keegan Lakey, Eric Smith. Christian Challoner was the final driver to set a lap time. The rest set by provisionals and their ridiculously high I ratings. Casey Kerwin, Nick Ottinger, Blake Reynolds, Brian Blackford, Jose Solis Jr., and then Michael Guerrilla, John Bolinski, Alan Ballacino, Harrison Lyon, Kane Cook, and Dustin Johnson. 36 drivers in total. I think I counted 16 of them are participants and competitors in the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. Today is going to be wild. The talent is on another level. The strength of field is on another level. 6,570. Just waiting for the last few drivers to head to their little starting grid down on pit road. Track conditions for us today, Justin. So we roll off on our pace lap. Track temp is 29 degrees Celsius. A little bit of wind, a little bit of humidity. 1:30 p.m. in sim time. And 330 kilometers, 205 miles, 134 laps is the distance ahead of us as we roll down the back straight. Looking to get set to go racing. Expect a very quick charge on the bottom and then a very quick migration to the top. It will be Ryan Michael Loser that leads us away. Justin Bolton to us outside, looking to take the green for the first time today. Pace car peels off. In the hands of Michael Loser, up through the gears, and we are racing from Kansas Speedway.
This track condition is going to be very critical. Keep an eye on throughout this race tonight because, as talked about, they're cool for the track temps, but as well, the wind is going to gust these cars like crazy. Going to force them loose at one of the speedway, then tight at the other end of the track. And you can't really adjust for that as a setup builder or as a driver. You need to basically handle the toughness of this track and as well, make sure you don't snap around with this gusting wind.
You can see that first lap, all of them down low. And into the second lap, they'll continue that trend. 3 wide for 4th place, right behind Seth the Merchant. Justin Bolton going backwards as 2 is inside. He has the 10 of Shearburn, the 4 of Alfalla as the caution comes out.
Well, that was quick. At the back of the field, very back of the field. Nathan Lyon already involved in this one. Believe he was also involved with one other car there, maybe Blackburn. What a way to start this off here tonight, though. And this has been a case at the start of some of these races, especially in A Opens this week, where drivers have been snaking and getting loose. One car bobbles down the track, bumps into another, and boom, you have a pinball effect.
And did he meet the inside safer barrier? Yes, he did. A little nudge with the back of that car. Blackford should get away with it. Lyon might have a little bit of damage to contend with. In fact, he's already retired from this race, so he'll be thankful he was on his alt account for that one. Won't lose as much I rating as he might have. Random simulation replay providing us the goods there. Not expecting anyone to come down to pit road with a caution this early on. Without 3 wide action, very quickly there, Justin, as everyone tried to make early progress before passing becomes difficult. Not a good start for Justin Bolton, -4 spots.
I wouldn't be necessarily worried, though, because here's the thing, too, with this track. Drivers have talked about openly on the radio, they need to go and lift a ton in the opening laps to make sure they're good on the tires. The thing is, the reason we're seeing so many cars top off in our fuel here is we were talking about this before tonight's race, Ryan. An early caution flag may make this a tight one-stopper. If it goes green the rest of the way, these cars may be able to try and stretch it. And the reason it could be realistic is, with how the fall-off is here, only about a couple seconds at the very most, an undercut, let's say, could gain you a ton of time, and by the time the tires equalize, you might be 10 seconds ahead on the racetrack if you have enough gas to circumvent 2 pit stops by the others.
Definitely worth having that fuel in the tank. You never know how the race may play out, though. If we get a caution around lap 70, it's going to equalize the entire field. You can all come in, fill it up, and in theory, get home from there. Tires notwithstanding in that equation. Definitely a lot to think about, though. As always, when we come racing for these 50% race lengths, as we do for 90% of the NASCAR iRacing Series season, a couple of full-length events. They've all been run and done, though, this year. It's just 50% until the end. In fact, there's just 4 more races left for the season after tonight. In fact, make that 3, 35 rounds. We're getting close to wrapping this one up, and Garrett Maines, who's running in 8th place at the moment, last time I checked, had one of the healthiest margins in the history of iRacing. It was like 1,000 points or something, Justin.
Yeah, it's a huge victory when it came to that side, but we have a delayed yellow here, I believe, on the track because Brian Blackford, the former pro driver, ended up stopping on the racetrack. He had been cycled behind everybody on the lead lap because he came out with the pit lane closed, had to let everybody go, and then just stopped on the apron. That's enough to trigger a delayed yellow here at this track. To get to the reasoning of that, though, and keep in mind, because you have such a big amount of pavement on the backstretch, and this is more towards the middle of the road near in terms of age scans, a lot of cautions will be triggered tonight, either on that big apron or even on the back straightaway to give that flexibility. You may even get a couple that could be 45 degrees in the grass. Front stretch is that one exception, though, here tonight. And this is going to help everybody who just topped off even more.
Certainly is. I don't think any of the guys that stayed out are going to be concerned. Their tires will be fine. There's going to be no disparity there. It's just that fuel number. Maybe they can stretch it to a point in which they can pit at around lap, what are we thinking, 65 or 70, and then they can make it home.
Yeah, I think if you get to about even lap 70, absolutely, you can stretch it and make it fairly easily without having to save too much, Ryan. The main thing is, if you are in that picture of that closeness of fuel, we might see them ride a little bit more on the bottom side of the back part of the field for an extra few 10, 15 laps because you burn more fuel up on the gas with how much full throttle you get. So this is going to be where you're going to have to keep an eye on those cars, but also keep an eye on how the pace is up towards the front because many different competitors are either spotting their fellow technical alliance mates in this, or they may be ghost racing this or taking notes of this race right now.
We saw a few ghost races last week. Just to quickly explain that phenomenon. It's basically when you jump in, it's basically a test session. Well, everyone else does their race. They can't see you, but you can see them as we go back racing. What a jump for your front row. Ryan Michael loser, Dylan DeVol peel away from DeMerchant, who's now getting a push from Alfala. They're 3 wide behind them again. Justin Bolton going backwards once more.
Alright, a little bit dicey on the jump here, but keep an eye, I think, on drivers like Alfala, like Novak, maybe Bolton as well, because those cars have been pretty sporty on the bottom. Those cars we caught throughout the week on the bottom. Alfala actually gaining a ton of time on the bottom that time to take away third.
Look at how DeMerchant is glued to his back bumper, giving him a solid push through the tri-oval. And then they fan out and hunt for some clean air. Alfala opted to go about middle of the racetrack and gets a fantastic run down this back straight. Can't do much with it as he runs into the back of Dylan Duvall, who slips up from 3 and 4, and he's going to lose 2 spots. So still the inside's working.
This is going to be the case for at least a little while here, Ryan. It's not a time to panic, though, as a driver, because eventually the tire's going to come back your direction when that top line goes your way if you're backing it up a little bit more and trying to save there. It's just a concern, though. Say if you're in the teens right now and that big cluster you see in the backdrop of, are you going to be able to make sure you're in the right lane at the right time and make sure you're ready if there's something that happens here in this cluster?
Already saw the Merchant have a little bit of a wiggle a lap or so ago on the low side. That's why he's now at the back of the train as we're on board with the 3x3 that's happening further down the order. Jimmy Mullis in the middle at the moment, trying to pick a way through. About 5 different lanes being taken by the 15 or so drivers in that group. Very much pack racing early on as we hit lap 10 and go past it to lap 11.
Like a couple drivers are starting to struggle a little bit here already, as to be expected, and that top line is now starting to drift up a little bit for a couple drivers. Alfala already want to be up top. Duvall already want to be up top. The main key is, though, you need to get clean air, because while dirty arrow push isn't a major effect, it could still be a bit of an effect here at Kansas on the iRacing service, in that you get close to somebody, the draft can actually technically pull you up a little bit up towards the wall, and you can follow them into the fence if they in turn scrape the safer barrier, especially off turn 2.
Here we go. Starting to use some of the high side. Ray Alfala, and I think that's Dylan Duvall behind him. Zach Novak has worked his way forward up into 5th place, picking up the middle lane. The Merchant starting to make a charge back as well. Meanwhile, behind, there is no semblance of ordinary. It is simply find some room to push your car and pray that no one else goes for the same piece of road as you, as everyone is hunting for ground to make up at a track where overtaking is surely going to become more and more difficult only as time goes on in this stint.
Some of these cars, though, you have to think about, have to be prepared for the long run, because that's going to be where you can lose so much time if you fall off a ton. Just looking like Maines is trying to save some fuel. Take a listen here in 1 and 2 and hear if he holds the clutch here.
Did he, Justin? I couldn't get on board in time.
He's absolutely holding in the clutch here. He was one of the drivers who did not top off your run. So he feels he can try to go for the 1 stop. But the concern I have on this is, if you wanted to make sure you can do that, why didn't you just come in during the first caution flag?
Well, Justin, is it worth clutching like that, even if you're not necessarily hunting for the 1 stop, just making sure you've got all the fuel in the tank that you can have, so that as the race develops, you can do whatever you want, sort of thing? Maybe he's still looking at a 2 stop, but...
A little bit. If not, it may be also, here's the thing, temperatures. Because a couple drivers in NIS conditions specifically have talked about, depending on how much tape they have up towards the front even, because you have to think about how much speed they're carrying around here on the quarter track temps, with it being the fall. If you don't have that dialed in, you're likely overheating the race car. And the best way to cool down your oil temps? Put in the clutch. So if, say, Maines is struggling with that, that may be also a good reason why he may be trying to clutch in so hard and try to make sure he doesn't blow it up.
So Chris Shearburn's got himself to the front now. Zach Novak's followed him, and Ryan Michaelouza's fallen to 3rd. In fact, here comes the move for Novak trying to take the lead away, and Louza goes to the top, so they're 3 wide for the lead of this race down towards turn 1. Novak going to slide up in front of Shearburn. And now he's going to get swallowed up as Loser goes by. Duvall goes by. DeMerchant trying to get there. A lot of dicey racing right now for the lead this early on. Lap 18 of 134.
That's going to really hurt Shearburn the most because the top line is now the line, and now several cars are freight training some of the fellow Coke drivers, in fact, here. The description I've come up with when it comes to how tight the racing could be here, though, is you almost need to be very cutthroat with some space. If you find any hole, take it immediately, or else you're dropping to the back end of the top 10 here.
Well, that move from Zach Novak to get to the inside of Shearburn and then slide up in front of him was a very good one, because it allowed him to not get stuck on the low side like Shearburn did. Now that car finds a gap up top, and it's just Alfala that is stuck down low, but he's making it work quite nicely. Shearburn's struggling, rear end stepping out, and Alfala's able to actually clear him on the low side there. And now Justin Bolton is going to try to do exactly the same thing through 3 and 4. So maybe Shearburn's just struggling overall right now, because that is now 2 cars that have gone by underneath him.
He might be getting a little bit too loose with a bit of the wind as well. Maybe cook the right front a touch bit more, because the balanced tire wear is going to be crucial for this type of race as well. If your tire wear is, say, in the 60s at under 1, you're doing it wrong. You normally want to be based on what was seen for some drivers in open racing already this week. Maybe 70s, low 70s, mid 70s in terms of tire wear percentage marks. I think Shearburn's tires are just cooked at this point. Everybody else, though, seems to be comfortable, able to run both lines, able to also carry momentum, and also be able to build enough speed off the straight, down the straightaways, especially down the front, to get to the right quarter panel and take the top like Leahy here.
You know who isn't comfortable? Brendan Kohler and Garrett Maines. They are tumbling 9th to 19th and 6th to 20th for those 2 drivers. And honestly, they're not looking like they're going to go forward at all. In fact, here they are side by side. That's Maines on the extreme inside. Kohler just finding the gap up top. They're going backwards. And we're on board with Maines. We know he's clutching. Whether that's got anything to do with his relative lack of pace early on or not, I don't know.
I think for the Elite Salary Esports machines, keep in mind the 35 is a teammate to that that's going to force them to the driving seat. Oh!
That was tight.
I think there was a bit of a checkup effect that caused a bit of that there. Leahy tried to pop out, and Shearburn was looking to try and take the run. I believe there's some contact there for Leahy's right front arrow.
And now they're going to go 3 wide again. Santiago Tires, the other one, right up in amongst that.
Yeah, Leahy's definitely got some damage there from a bit of the contact. Actually got tapped there, I believe it was, by Patrick Moose with how tight it was. Moa said over the radio that he was starting to shove a little bit at that moment. That's where some of this draft can come into play. We talked about the potential of dirty air. We talked about the pull of the draft carrying a ton of speed. And that, in turn, has been a concern throughout the week. It seems as though, again, it's coming in right on the exit of turn 2, where that safer barrier flares out a little bit more than normal. It can catch you off guard because you expect it to be in just a touch bit more than what it actually is with the green logos for the American Ethanol branding.
So this is interesting. Alfala is not exactly losing ground on the low side. He's actually gaining ground, if anything. Well, definitely. He's almost got him cleared. Dylan Duvall. And with a push from DeMerchant, he will. So Ray Alfala has just driven himself to second by using that low line, which does not have as much banking as the top. That's why the top is generally quicker as the run goes on. But his car, at least, seems to be maybe dialed in to work that low side a little bit better. And that could be an important development for them in terms of building their setup for Tuesday night.
That's actually a great point, because if you think back a few years ago, Keegan Leahy was the only driver to get the bottom line to work when there was a race at Kansas under the lights when it was still low downforce in 2018.
Whoa,
everybody else was on the top.
Contact behind. That was Justin Bolton copping a whack from Boyd Hogan into turn 1 as they tried to both dive to the top. And now Bolton falls backwards. Patrick Moose just got a little bit loose, trying to stay off the doors of everyone around him.
Ray apologies over the radio. I think Bolton was trying to squeeze up a little bit. Hogan wasn't as close to the wall, I think, as he maybe expected, but Alfala's coming for the race lead. And if he's able to make this line work for the whole run, this is something a lot of teams may try and take note of, because if you're the only one on the bottom, guess what? You may have another Leahy in 2018 moment here.
Express delivery on the low side for the postman, Ray Alfala. Can he take it all the way to the front? He's trying and trying very hard. Through the tri-oval, he'll poke his nose out front. He'll be classed as the leader that time around, was he? Nope. Luke's is still at it by 3,000ths of a second, but it looks like this number 2 car is edging further and further ahead through each corner. Except for that one. That was a fantastic run for Loser. Backed up the entry and managed to get a superb run down the back straight. Carried it far enough forward to clear Alfala, who finds a gap and slots in behind him.
It's just that momentum on the top line that's just hurting Alfala. He's trying to set it in hard. The best way I think he can try and do this, though, is parking the bus if he can do it right here. No.
If that was the final lap of the race, I reckon we would have seen him dive up in front of Michael Loser then, and we probably would have seen contact, but he was aware enough to realise he was still a few millimetres away from being clear and has to settle for losing the spot out of that move. But showing some aggressive signs early on. He's come out to race, which is good to see from the multiple-time NASCAR champion. Down low again. Pokes ahead of Duval, but he's not going to be able to get up in front of him because Duval has stayed glued to the bumper of Michael Loser. Top 3, if they stayed single file, I think could probably get away from Seth the Merchant, but while Alfala's ducking and weaving here, taking the air away from those guys up front, it's just keeping those other few in touch.
It's so difficult to break away unless you have the wrong pace in terms of poise, tire wear, and throttle management. For this field tonight, with so many pro-level drivers and road-to-pro contenders, mind you, who are going to be in the Pro Series in the wintertime, as well looking to join the Coke Series roster, I don't think it's going to be quite easy. It's also going to be the type of race where drivers are going to have to pick their spots. We've seen Conti making some moves now. Remember, he was on the top-off strategy. Everyone else here is going to be interesting how they try and play this with the different strategies for the fuel marks now in play, potentially if this keeps going.
We're on lap 33, so potentially about halfway through our opening stint in terms of fuel, if we stay green until that period. There's a handful of drivers that could stretch it even farther, or further, rather, than that even. Alfala tries to really open up his entry to turn 1. He drifted very close to the left door of Duval. Can he slide up in front of him here? On the exit of the corner, there's a gap. And he ducks into it.
Yeah, I'm surprised still. I'm surprised Alfala's been able to stick it to the bottom that long without pushing tight or getting snapped loose on exit. Some of his fellow technical alliance mates and some of the fellow crew members for some of his cars who have been racing some official races have been snapped loose on corner exit. I've seen that in a couple cases where Lloyd Hogan, let's say, for example, who works with him a little bit, has spun a car out. Here we go.
How about that move? Got himself to the right rear quarter panel of Loser. Uses the high side. Ray Alfala goes to the lead at Kansas Speedway. He is looking fast tonight. And Loser not fighting the pace down low that Alfala found. He was forced down there. Loses 1, 2, 3 spots. Maybe trying to get up behind a Merchant. Don't think it's going to be able to. Boyd Hogan's right there. He forces the issue. And now Jimmy Mullis coming at them as well.
I think Mullis going to try and push the issue here. In fact, he's communicating that he's going to leave some space here, I believe. Hogan just thinking big picture, doesn't want to mess with the Coke drivers here tonight, but man, talked about this a little bit. You get to somebody's outside with a pull down the front stretch, you can really take advantage of that and force the driver you pass to go backwards. Loses not set up for the top. Moa's really playing with fire here. That was a little bit too close for comfort there, Ryan, than for what's normal. They're all the way up to the safer barrier trying to peel off Boyd there in turn 2.
Bit like Darlington, you get those stripes down the right side, you almost resign yourself to nudging it at some point. Drivers that have got to make sure that if they do nudge that safer barrier, they don't let it get to them, because I think a lot of people might be grazing it today. Boyd Hogan is absolutely tumbling. Hand over fist right now. That inside is disastrous for him.
He's in massive trouble here. He needs to find a hole in quickly, and that was one of the concerns again mentioned. His car, like Lewis's, not as well built, I think, for the bottom side, and just needs to find the spot like right here. Again, you get peeled off that top, you can lose up to 10 positions maybe. A couple of the cars in front of them, though, are starting to have a bit of looseness. There's some of the Nexus cars nearly snapping it.
Tucker Minter had a check up, and Justin Bolton capitalized. Patrick Moose tried to, and has been stalled out. That's going to allow Michael Conti to him. So Conti's working his way forward. Started 20th, now finds himself 20th.
Oh, there's a crash. Kane Cook's around in the front.
We stay green as the smoke starts to dissipate from a half spin through the tri-oval. The Kane Cook.
I think Christian Challenger hit the wall out of turn 4, and Cook had to slam on the brakes to make sure he didn't mollywop the back end of him. Take a look at the Modem Simulation replay. Take a look at this. Challenger had just hit the wall. Cook with a massive save. Hopes to get a caution as he tries to lock it down, of course, to try and also not kill the car. Doesn't get the caution. Guess what? He's now at least a half a track behind.
Remarkably bad luck for Kane Cook there on many different levels. Replay from above. Nothing he could do with that checkup in front. Great job from everyone behind to avoid him as well. He'll be praying for a caution then before the field catches him. Might have a bit of damage on that car as well, but could potentially hold him up. Ray Alfala starting to pull a little bit of a gap. It's 3/10, make that 4/10 of a second over Dylan Duvall in second. Seth the Merchant trailing him in third. Got a gap back to Jimmy Mullis, Keegan Leahy, Ryan Michael Loser, Zach Novak, Justin Bolton. Michael Conti's up to 9th, and Tucker Minty a top 10.
Still, though, some of these cars getting really fierce to try and get up to the same spots here who have similar packages here. Ottinger, he's been stuck in traffic this entire time, maybe trying a little bit of a tweak. If not, he hasn't been able to find luck here. Eric Smith, he's been stuck in the bottom for a good while. Casey Kerwin's been stuck in the back for a little while. All these drivers, I think, have the ability to get up to the latest lead. The problem is, it's a choo-choo train once again up towards the top, and eventually somebody's going to have to peel their way to the next car or try and jump on forward.
Casey Kerwin, of course, our winner from last week at the Roval, dominating that event quite comfortably on the Friday night. So, by the way, this driver on board with Michael Conti, I mentioned him getting up from 20th to 9th now. He was one of those guys that pitted under the caution, so he was actually further back than 20th.
Yeah.
And this is interesting because he's going to be able to go longer than these guys. A little bit fresher tyres might have had a playing role in him getting up here.
I would have thought he would have just topped off with there being only one lap of them for the most part. Don't think that's the big difference. The big difference is going to be the mileage. Because everyone else, they might have to pit in 5 minutes. I don't know for certain if they're going to be able to realistically make it without having to assess with clutch and coast. Everyone who topped off, I think they can make it fairly easily here. In fact, it's to the point where drivers like Justin Boner are saying, you know what, I know you're quicker, just go, just go.
Yeah, Bolton peeled high there through the tri-oval and let Conti drive by him. Duvall starting to really struggle. Alfala driving away from him, and Duvall now has Seth the Merchant tucked up underneath his little rear wing. last time by, the Merchant was fractionally slower because now that he's gotten that close, he's struggling to find that last little bit of progress he needs to actually make the move. Jimmy Mullis reeling them in as well. 47 laps in, about 15 laps away from the pit stops, we think. The Merchant looked low on the entry. Not a great spot to do it. That cost him the exit. Jimmy Mullis says, thank you very much. That's a freebie.
Looks like the pit window's open all of a sudden here, though, Ryan. There goes Eric Smith. That was to be expected. Drivers who couldn't make it on the one stop from that early caution flag, like we're going to have to top off and come in for a two-stop.
So the two-stop window opening up a little bit earlier than expected. We'll see if this drags anyone else in, because Eric Smith now will be blazing on his fresh tyres. I think as he picks him up, he was only just pulling it up to actually get into the lane. Justin Bolton peels off as well here. Bolton, of course, starting this one from second. Was running up inside the top 10.
And I keep on harping on this because the key thing is it's about 30-40 seconds you can lose in the pit lane. You're at Kansas, not including the pit exit and how you enter the pit lane. The thing is, for the drivers who may have topped off, they get to save that time. Put this in perspective. If you can make it comfortably, drivers like this I've seen early morning, in fact, be able to win by as much as 4 or 5 seconds by being able to stretch his fuel to 66, 67 laps. So if anyone else can do that, they're in a good spot. If they don't have to massively clutch and coast, they might be able to get a good bump here, especially since the undercut is so powerful here with how little fall off there is and the equalization point being so quick.
Here we go. Raul Fowler peels off. Zach Novak comes with him. Tucker Minter, Patrick Moose, Garrett Maines. The list goes on. Pit window well and truly open and flourishing with activity down on pit road.
That's not a surprise. The second Novak said that, I think that decided everybody else's strategy in that lead pack. For everyone else, I wouldn't be surprised to see them in a lap or two.
Chris Shearburn announcing his intentions as well, pitting this lap. The only drivers we expect to stay out now, the ones that pitted under that little caution break towards the start. Guys like Michael Conti. Mullis locking it up as he brought it in. Well, think he just about got it to pit road speed quickly enough. Another half a dozen cars on the lane.
It's going to hurt them for a little bit here. But the interesting thing is the drivers who stayed out here. Leahy's understandable with some of the damage. He's now indicating Kason Plot coming in this time. Ryan Doucette coming in this time.
Conti
so it's all staggered out.
So Michael Conti's come in here, Justin. So he's thinking he can't make it now. One stop, not possible for the early stoppers. That probably means the rest of the early stoppers will probably pit here for a two-stop as well, you think?
I find that really interesting, actually, that Conti's elected to do here. Maybe he thinks that he can make it without having to save time at the pit stop, but taking a look here on replay, Casey Kerwin here is on screen, trying to hold off Oninger. This on the pit entry specifically, where he's trying to charge hard, gain a ton of time, clips the apron, and that starts this chain of reaction where he's trying to lock it down, barely makes the cone, loses a spot or two in that.
He's very fortunate. That bright blue card was inside, turned left and gave him the room to actually get back on to pit road before that yellow cone came up. They avoid contact and he avoids a pit road unsafe entry penalty. I think we're hearing Ocean Walsh might have missed his pit box. So that'll be time lost for him. 5 cars have stayed out. That is Seth the Merchant, Nick Ottinger, John Gorlinski, Alan Ballacino, and Blake Reynolds. Dustin Johnson as well, but he's a long way back.
I think the cars most realistic to try and stretch it here maybe are Ottinger, Ballacino, because they topped off. The others, I think, are question marks here, really. Maybe Gorlinski and Johnson may be able to try something. But everybody else, they absolutely have to pit one more time or hope for a caution flag equal strategies here, because at this point, you can see how many cars are pinned the lap down and how far back some of these cars are at this point, up to at least 20 plus seconds to the next position in Dustin Johnson. That's going to be a big boondoggle if they don't have to pit the extra time that everyone else here has.
Fastest lap of the race, Chris Shearburn, 29.311. Fresh tyres and a rejuvenation and pace come hand in hand. He's running 17th right now. Scored a lap down, but it won't be long before these pit stops, early pitters, work themselves back onto the lead lap. Now, if a caution was to come out, Justin, before they got themselves back on the lead lap, i.e. in the next lap or two, it could give a massive free kick to those that stayed out.
100%. Absolutely. Because they'd be all forced to take the wave. They'd be on much older tires. And in turn, everyone else can try and stretch a little bit who was able to stay on the lead lap. So it puts a ton of pressure now on really this entire pack to even get up to the Merchant. And they've not been getting close. And that's the difficult part here is, looking at the pace difference, it's maybe a second and a half quicker for the cars behind, if that, maybe 2 seconds. So at this point, these cars just are not sucking up to, say, some of the other mile and a halves where you go up to 3 seconds a lap gain.
It's still a substantial amount. If we stay green, though, we'll gain massively in the long run. Bit of 2 and 3 wide further back, though, in the meantime. Rael Fowler. In 3, 2, 1. He's alongside the leader. Rael Fowler, first car on the racetrack that's pitted, now back on the lead lap. Jimmy Mullis next up, then Duvall, then Novak, Bolson, Smith, who are 3 wide. Smith found quite a bit of track position with his early stop, early compared to those around and up inside the top 10. I think he might be falling backwards a little bit now as a result of that. Wow, that's aggressive. That's almost contact. Couldn't see it out of his left-hand side door. That was a big dive from Keegan Leahy trying to force himself to the inside of Zach Novak. And wow, should have been a wreck.
I don't think that was going to stick. Let's take a look at the replay here. This could have been a big one. And understand a bit of the frustration with Leahy, a bit of damage here. This is going to hold him up a little bit and hurt some of his testing, maybe have to push into a Sunday run. But he's seen an opportunity to go full throttle, seen a hole. The problem is the hole wasn't really completely there. And that's some of the risk drivers have when you leave space on the bottom like that or on the top. Drivers will try and poke it in. Others, they need to time it up perfectly to make that work. It did not get timed up well there.
It was a quickly closing door disguised as a hole for Keegan Leahy there. It's still pretty aggressive around this group. De Merchant now has only got 13 cars with him on the lead lap because a whole bunch just unlapped themselves.
Nick Ottinger and Seth De Merchant can't make it. De Merchant coming in this time. Ottinger is coming to pit. Can anyone else try and stretch it now? I think they're still trying here.
I don't think there's any hope for them. They'll probably be hoping that a caution comes out sometime between the next cycle for the rest of the field and their next stop, so that they can maybe get that free kick they might have got here if a caution come out. Almost 4 wide as Gorlinski comes in between Shearburn, Duvall, Leahy, Conti. Valentino now left as the leader, the only car yet to pit. Started this race 33rd, now leads on lap 63, going for another lap.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how long he can push it here. 64 has been the most realistic mark. We're about lap 64. He was one of the cars who topped off and got the chance to save a bit, but some great fighting here with drivers like Conti, who's been consistently pushing up through the field. Shearburn will have to see what he adjusted for the long run. And yeah, nobody can make it on the one-stop. Official confirmed. Balacino was in, despite topping off.
Honestly, not too surprised by that. So now the battle resumes. Rael Fowler will reclaim the race lead officially. Jimmy Mullis got his hands full of Keegan Leahy. And who's this flying up by them? That is Dustin Johnson, one of those cars that pitted very late on. So he's looking to get a lap back here.
Yeah, Mullis's car is demolished here, mind you, and all of this. This is why the pack is so clustered up here. He just about knocked down the fence off of turn 4. He's coming in.
Is he?
Just indicated on the radio, and he's drifting his way in with that massive hit.
Yeah, is he? Because he was extremely dedicated and carried the speed for an incredible amount of time. That is a speeding penalty, I suspect. Don't think that car got slowed down quick enough.
If it isn't, it might be an unsafe pit entrance. The cone is in the middle of the grass right now. But
yeah, this is going from bad to worse for Jimmy Mullis right now. Dustin Johnson is back in the lead lap, just went on past Ray Alfalla. So that's good news for him. If caution was to fly, he won't be caught out by it. Biggest movers then at just about the halfway point of this race. Keegan Leahy 23rd to 2nd. Michael Conti has gone 20th to 3rd. We've also got Casey Kerwin, Eric Smith, both plus about 13. Jose Solis Jr. has gone 30th to 15th. Michael Guerrilla 31st to 19th.
keep in mind in all this, Ray Alfalla has broken the draft from the rest of the field, and this was something I talked about as a crucial point. Because if you've got enough pace and can separate yourself from the rest of the field, it can be difficult for them to reel you in unless they get some drafting help. Conti and Shearburn might be able to draft their way up to Leahy and try and group up to Alfalla, but right now this is exactly what the two-car needs here to try and just pull away.
John Gorlinski about to get his lap back as well. Just comparing lap times now between our top two. 31.1 for Leahy, a 31 flat for Alfalla, so he's lapping quicker than him. Looking good for Alfalla at the moment. Conti still under a lot of pressure from Chris Shearburn for that third spot. Chris Shearburn running in fourth right now. Only the one caution so far. Last two top splits of the week have had 5 and 4. As always, it is Friday night. It is an NASCAR iRacing series, and the drivers are putting on a show for us here on the iRacing Esports Network. Half the Coke field have turned up, and if you look at the top 10, you'll see a lot of them are in those spots. Alfalla in first, Leahy in second, Conti in third, Shearburn in fourth, Novak in fifth, Duvall in sixth, and then Santiago Tires in ninth.
He's actually up to 7th right now, in fact, at the moment, Ryan. If you look at the live timing, the only drivers not Coke drivers, though, up here right now are Tucker Minter and Patrick Moose, two of the Nexus machines. We talked about Minter working with some of the NASCAR drivers for some of the happy hour events for the Daytona Road Course. Patrick Moose, of course, one of the top drivers in Road to Pro this year. You're getting ready for the Pro Series qualifiers. They've got some of the talent and some of the backing, it looks like, at least to run up here with the big boys. If they can qualify their way in for 2021, or at least Moose can and Minter can help them in that regard, I'm curious how that technical alliance can do with their drivers, since so many of their competitors are in that field. Thing is, of note though of that, half of their technical alliance is also in the back part of the field tonight, who are up in here.
How good is it, though, for guys like Minter and Patrick Moose? Justin Bolson is there in 10th as well. To be up here racing these Coca-Cola Series drivers, the best, touted around iRacing as being so. They're taking it to them. And for guys like them, who could be in the series next year if everything goes to plan, for Tucker Minter especially, it's good experience to gain. Getting themselves known to those drivers they'll be battling it out with for very high stakes. They learn how each other race and how much respect they can give each other, who they need to give that little bit of room to, and who they can race door to door, knowing that there's not going to be contact.
I think that's very critical because it helps build respect, it helps build reputation for you if you drive well. If you knock people to the wall, that's not going to help you, put it that way, or fight on the radio, or scream like a banshee anytime someone tries to make a dive on you. All that's taken into account as a driver mentally, especially unridden, so to speak. So all these are all kept into account and are discussed by drivers and how they play things out. Minter, for example, that is not a smart move. He knows that you need to clear there by at least in our car, and they can even try parking the bus. His result going to go backwards. A couple things also note rear Ryan. Challenger, Lion, and Mullis, of course, now out of the race. Lusa, you seen moments ago, was the only car booked for speeding.
Lap down as a result. Bad news for him. The pole sitter got away early on, and the slow tumble has turned into a rock in the ocean, and he's 31st. First car lap down though, so caution comes out. You will get the lucky dog unless someone else gets lapped in between here and then, if it happens. Goodbye to everyone that is flying by the number 10 of Justin Bolton right now.
He's just stuck on the bottom. Oninger, he might need to tweak some stuff here for Tuesday because he's right now the cutoff driver for the Championship 4. He's had a pretty good season, a couple victories here and there, some good top 5 and top 10 runs this season. I think that car's starting to come into him though. It's just trying to make a move. Remember as well, he's got a bit fresher tires, so he can afford to push a little bit harder here and there. It also has a bit more flexibility maybe than some of the other cars for when he can come down to pit.
Gap starting to close between our top two. Now 9.5 tenths of a second, was 1.1. So bit by bit, Leahy starting to make progress, but nothing really in it at the moment between them. Lap times are incredibly tight. The fact that there's only 8 seconds covering the top 18 cars is remarkable.
Yeah, but that's not a surprise when it comes to Kansas with this stacked up amount of drivers in the field tonight. If you have good amount of pace, you can contend. And guess what? These are the best in terms of drivers and technical alliances and professional drivers and teams who know what they are doing when it comes to not just how they drive the track, but when it comes to building setups and utilizing the maximum amount of these setups. For some drivers, they like this feeling, though. You have to think, yes, it's a choo-choo train on the top, but it's a track with a lot of progressive banking. The higher up the track you go, the faster you go with the banking. So in turn, that's what helps play into things. And now, Eric Smith is going to find out once again that if you're lower on the progressive banking, you're likely going backwards here as Kason Plott tries to say hello.
On board with Casey Kerwin, that's Eric Smith to the inside and front, and squeezing up in front of him. Kerwin lifts off and lets him fill that gap, so Kason Plott finds himself gaining a spot, moving up to 9th. That check up from Kerwin checked up the Merchant and Dissette behind him, and 4 spots back. Jose Solis Jr. said, I can capitalize on this. Result of that, Nick Ottinger gets to his outside. Solis Jr. going to lose a spot. Decision making is so critical. Split-second decisions can make or break your race. And sometimes you're forced into decisions from actions taken by drivers half a dozen spots in front of you. Exactly the case for Solis Jr. there, with it all triggering from Casey Kerwin and Eric Smith. Another facet of very close quarters racing such as this. Here's Matt Forcapa back in 30th place right now. He's now the first car lap down. So Ryan Michael Loser is going to want to get up there and pass him. Issue is 13 seconds between them on the racetrack.
Yeah, the thing is that car's been massively beat up and been struggling all day and just not been able to drive with the right amount of consistency. But the top line, again, it's just an art form of running the wall because you have to be able to be timing up how close you get on entry, how close you get on exit as well to maximize the amount of speed. There's a reason some of the best are just nearly just about up to it because in real life there is a bit of an aero bubble where they're... Oh!
Big drama out of turn 4 into the outside safer barrier, and around they go. Who is that number 9 car, in fact?
Eric.
Custom numbers. It's Eric Smith.
What just happened there? I believe that was Ryan Doucette who was to his outside. Just what in the world? No, it was Jose Salas Jr. who was to his outside there. And I think Eric was trying to find a hole, but I think he also, same time, was pushing tight. He was not completely clear here. He was starting to wiggle up with the track right to the fender.
No room. No room for that move. And it will curtail Eric Smith's race because he'll have damage both ends of that race car. Again, I'm amazed that no one else was involved in that. Here's the other angle of it.
Yeah, right there at that point, he needed Salas Jr. to lift hard. But that just isn't going to happen in a lot of cases with this track. You lift, you're likely going backwards. Just a tough break there with that car just pushing very tight. And now, this makes things intriguing. Everyone can make another fuel.
It makes it easy, actually, doesn't it? Everyone can make it home from here. Kane Cook going to get himself a wave around as he stays out. You would suspect he'll take the wave around and not pit next time. Pit road only open for lead lap cars on the first lap. Everyone turns left. It is LA traffic down on pit road right now.
Cook is not just your wave around car, he's your lucky dog car, but...
How do you manage that?
Yeah, this is going to be fun to see how this plays out now here with how these cars try and come off the lane. Track position could be key. They still have a ton of tire sets available, though, if we get more cautions.
Matt Four-Carper must be feeling hard done by. I reckon he's a lucky dog. Seconds before that caution came out. Race off pit road. Alfalo wins it. Shearburn second. Keegan Leahy third, so he loses a spot. It'll be 4 tyres, 2 cans of fuel for everyone right now.
Hey, look on the bright side. Apparently, this is the most cars Kane Cook's passed all day, but for Matt, he's going to be a little bit unhappy in that steering, in that cockpit now, because I think you have to pit here, and it's a risk to not take the wave here, yes,
I'm
but...
staying out if I'm them. You're a lap down, you've got nothing to lose.
But at the same time, if you stay out and you don't get a caution flag, you're going to have to pit, and you're going to lose the lap regardless.
Well, Four-Carper's taken your view. Michael Loser's taken my view. They're as split as we are. So Michael Loser will get the wave around. And Matt Four-Carper will hope for things to work back in his favour a little bit later on. And he'll put himself on a cycle that will put him to the end if it stays green. But still a lap down. We'll see how that works out. I'll keep an eye on that by the time we get to the end. See who emerges out front. Loser or Four-Carper. Kane Cook also comes in. He is able to pit and keep the lead lap thanks to his lucky dog spot. Real Fowler keeps the overall lead of the race. This has really spiced it up.
Yeah, now the short run pace is going to kick in once again. And Alfalo, it's been shown already, he's good when he gets clean air. He might be tough to beat, but everyone else, though, we might see 3-4 wide racing again. Because that's how aggressive it's been on fresh tires, as we've seen throughout the week. There's a chance, though, that the wave around, yes, while it's very risky, if they get a quick caution flag here with the potential craze that's about to happen here, they're going to be a good spot. And guess what? With the amount of cars taking the wave here, it might work out if there's a caution for Matt as well, since he would be in the lucky dog position.
So there is going to be 31 cars on the lead lap. As the lights go out on the pace car, everyone waves around. Eric Smith, Jose Solis Jr., Michael Loser, Oisin Walsh are the wave around cars. In fact, Jose Solis Jr. came out of the pits, so he wasn't technically wave around. He's got more damage than Eric Smith does, so I wonder if Smith's going to get away with this. His car doesn't actually look that bad, to be honest with you. Rear end looks fine. Front end has a bit of a dink to the right front. It's a bit dirtied up and scratched, but honestly, could be worse.
It looks okay-ish, but it's still, I think, a concern because the more aero damage you have here, the slower you're going to be down the straights. At the same time as well, you hit that side door hard enough with contact within our car, you're damaging the engine. You lose even 4 RPMs, Ryan. You're going to be up to 0.3 of a second slower, and that could kill your potential for this race.
High average speed, which means damage is critical. Here we go, 47 to go at Kansas. It's Alfala in control. Back green. What a launch that Alfala got. Shearburn able to dive down to the inside. And now watch this. There's 2 tires on the grass. For I think that was Zach Novak. They're 3 wide already.
And I believe somebody jumped the start there. Matt Forkova jumped up to the high side as the Lucky Dog car and passed half the field.
Staying glued to the white line is the race leader Ray Alfala as they duck and dice behind. Shearburn now the run with pushing help from Leahy and Conti. Where does he go? To the inside. He sold the dummy to go high. Alfala went to block and Shearburn gets to the bottom for the lead of the race. Side by side. Look out for Leahy as well. Where does he go? He's got nowhere to go right now. He's boxed in.
I think he might try and push it up on the top side here off turn 4. Make it 3.
They're taking the air away from each other, holding each other up. Leahy. Michael Conti as well. What a move! All the way to the bottom side of the racetrack. They are 3 wide once again up at the front. Keegan Leahy wants to win this race. Michael Conti right there as well. Surely he waits for a gap. No way, he wants to make it 4 wide. There's a little bit of contact. Do they get away with it? Somehow they do. And it's Alfala that emerges.
That's a little bit tight in that moment. Here comes Casey Kerwin now, bringing Tiras and Novak back into it behind these cars.
Looking for back-to-back victories in this series. The Friday night is Casey Kerwin. He is emerging at the front right when it matters. Been middle or backpack for most of this race, but now looking for 4th. As Conti's on the inside of Alfala. For the lead. Not quite clear. Oh, what a move from Shearburn. Splits the gap, somehow gets to the middle.
Oh, that may force Alfala to try and regather his composure here, try and get a good run here. The problem is Kerwin's coming in quick here, really rounding that bottom well.
Everyone, pretty much, is in this fight for the lead. There's no gaps in the field right now. The side-by-side racing at the front is stacking everybody up with 41 laps to go at Kansas Speedway. Still side-by-side, Conti and Shearburn still not able to clear him. Alfala 3rd. The Merchant back up to 4th after going long on that green flag run. Leahy's on his outside. Kerwin's in there. Novak, Tires, Moose, Minter and Plot, your top 10 at the moment.
Here we go for the lead again. Alfala peeling Shearburn off the top now.
There's going to come a point when that top side becomes the quickest, and suddenly whoever's up there is going to find a big gain. As Leahy got his car crossed up, trying to get underneath with the Merchant. How good? Just 35 odd. Cup card sound as they race by us. Finally, it is one car that leads. It is Chris Shearburn. As Alfala looking to take 2nd away from Conti. Is the top side coming in? Looks like it is.
Conti, not as much of amount of speed as a couple laps ago. The top is definitely rubbered up and in. Now, if I'm Shearburn, just try and pull the draft on both of these cars. Try and get them to fight so you can try and run away here.
I'm helping the inside if I'm Shearburn right now. Through the tri-oval, down the back straight. But Conti wants none of it. He's trying to side draft those guys above him. There's nowhere for him to dive up top at the moment. There's no gaps forming. He's trying to form one himself. as Alfala, like we saw earlier on, is going to stick to the inside a lot longer than the rest of the field. He made it work well early. Can he make it work well again here for the lead? As behind them, Leahy blows the engine entering turn 3.
Too hot on the engine. That damage may have caused a bit of that blow up. What a time for that.
And he'll be thankful there was no one right up behind him on that blue. So we stay green. And Leahy will drop out of this race. Alfala, nose in front, down the back straight. Demerchant's going to help Shearburn with a bit of a push. Conti making it 2x2.
This might go 3x3 at this point, or 3x2. Conti, I think, is still committed to try and make it 3. Alfala we've seen was pretty good on the bottom, and Demerchant, he might try and poke the hole here.
Off the exit, Alfala gets close, but not close enough to clearing Demerchant on his left front. He's sat. Bit of damage maybe to that left front of Demerchant, it looked like. Just a fraction. That's just how the paint looks. Might have been catching me off guard. Conti is glued to the back bumper of Demerchant. There he is. Giving him a big old push through the tri-oval. Not good news for Alfala, but I'm continually impressed by the power of that car down low. Definitely something that might catch the eye of the other Coke drivers before Tuesday night.
Gonna get interesting here. That second pack is starting to lose momentum here. But already, again, the leaders, 4 cars in a blanket, and Novak is coming. He's now been also be able to work in the bottom of the track to break that draft to touch with Kerwin, with Therese, along with the short track racer and Plot.
3 cars up top, 2 cars down low. Zach Novak trying to bridge the gap between both groups here. He's using all of the racetrack. He's taken the Alfala line through the corner, but on the exit he's able to move all the way up to the top. Alfala can't because there's a car there, although not anymore because Alfala finally has been dropped to the tail end of the leading quartet. And it is 4 cars, single file, on the top of the racetrack with 33 to go. That's tight. That's very tight behind them. Nick Ottinger just keeping it off the left door of Case and Plot.
Now he's starting to push here as Santiago Torres is now really loose. This is now where the right rear tires are coming off. Demerchant's now tight. He just smacked the wall for second.
That's going to let Conti get to his inside. You can see the chaos behind them as well. Checks up. Alfala allows Novak into the party and pulls a gap of about 3/10 to the leader, Chris Shearburn. He's loving this behind him. The gap getting bigger and bigger for him down the back straight.
This is right when some of the tire fall off is going to come into play here for some of these cars. And especially since the wind has been shifting and picking up now during this run, it's going to be even more tighter. Bit tighter in turn 4, a bit looser in turn 1 and 2 maybe for the rest of this race.
Track temp pretty much still where we started at 29 degrees Celsius. So no change there. Cloud cover though will play a big role. Always does. As the grip levels variate through across the racetrack. Nothing as drastic as a day to night transition though. Not today. Gap reduced on that lap by Marco Conti. The draft working in his favour. Alfala may be working with him as well. On board with Marco Guerrilla. Further back in the pack. He's running in 20th right now. That's a very slow moving car.
And that's some of the aero damage coming in for Justin Levine there, absolutely, from some of the damage it's had throughout the race. Says hello. Yeah, that middle line's just not working now, especially for Guerrilla. Too loose, and now Ballacino's in the grass.
Hello and goodbye for Guerrilla there. Ballacino, yeah, ended up in the grass. Keeps it straight. We stay green. I don't know if we're done with cautions today. They are racing very tight right now. No one cutting any slack out there. 29 left in this one. Demerchant is back in 5th and looking like he's struggling for a bit of pace now after that whack with the fence he touched on. He's got Kerwin and Plot, Ottinger, Moose and Tires all on a train right on his back bumper.
That's on just a little tiny scrape on his car, and the frustrating thing I think for Sherburne has to be, with this package, you just can't break the draft easily. And that's been the case so far. He's been good and strong in clean air, but everyone else with the draft has just been able to pull. The main thing's going to be, just don't make a mistake. If you make any sort of mistake in this race now, Conti's going to try and take away that outside from you down the front.
Look a little bit further back and you'll see that Kerwin has stolen the top away from DeMerchant, got to his right side, and that is going to open the door for Case and Plot. Nick Ottinger as well. DeMerchant loses 3 spots through 1 and 2. He'll be praying for a caution to maybe fix up as much of that damage as he can on the right side.
What a massive block over the backdrop there. What in the world is Minter trying to block there?
The run from Justin Bolton didn't want to let him get to the top side of him. He succeeded in doing so, but he's very slow mid-corner. Bolton does the crossover. Might clear him enough to throw it into 3 and 4 and clear him through there, and he does. Just. Oh, that's tight.
Yeah, that is a little bit more on the aggressive side, but when the top line's the preferred line on this long run, you're going to have to be making those types of moves. Don't be surprised to see a couple of them on Tuesday as well with those runs, but just no one's been able to build up a run to Sherburne quite yet. He's in fact a little bit quicker, I think, in the corners. It's just the draft that's keeping everyone else with him.
Top 3 are right together, less than half a second between them. There's a gap then back to Novak, who's sort of by himself. Then Casey Kerwin, Case and Plot, Nick Ottinger. 3, then 1, then 3, then the field. That's how this shapes up at the moment.
I think depending on where the race behind Brian Blackford is up the road is going to be pretty crucial as well. Some of the lap traffic coming into play there, and that's going to feed some dirty air a little bit to Sherburne for the next little bit. It might cause some troubles for him in the corner if Blackburn tries to move off the top line.
He's 31st, second car lap down behind Matt Carpet. He put it under that crane. Another caution will come out so he can get the lucky dog, get back in the fight.
Oh, that just hurt Conti. That just hurt Conti.
Alfala sliding into the corner. Conti gets on. Blackford keeps it right down to the low side. Sherburne will pull a gap now as they fight away behind him for second place, and Conti's going to move up in front of the number 2 car.
This is exactly what Sherburne needed to try and break away. If he can break the draft, he might be in a good spot here if it stays green.
Already half a second back to second with the leader. That was less than that, covering the top 3 before they started going side by side. Alfala backs out. Lets Conti slot back in. Maybe recognizing that gap, starting to stretch to Chris Sherburne. It did let Zach Novak maybe get within a distance to which he can follow them and close in thanks to the draft. He was 3/10 quicker than him last time by. Casey Kerwin's just hanging on to the last thread of Novak's draft.
See how much he's having to wheel that car because it's just bowing a little bit. Thing is, if you have to lift a ton, Ryan, you're losing time. If you have to wheel it hard, you're burning up the tires. You need to be smooth and patient and precise on your throttle movements. You lift too hard even, you're likely snapping it around. And I think at this point, Ottinger's having to lift a ton here for Case and Plot. That's why he's making this move.
Just not carrying enough momentum. But he took that hard left to go to the low side. And as a result, Case and Plot finds it very easy to just keep his spot. Holding it up on the top side and carrying the higher mid-corner speed as the top 3 have closed in once again. Chris Sherburne loses the gap he had. just caught a sight of Austrian Walsh rolling out of pit road. Caution's out. You wouldn't believe, but remember under that last caution I said Michael Luzer was going to stay out? He stayed out. He just pitted.
Carson Hocevar going to be running in the NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series for a significant amount of the schedule next year. Valve in a bit of trouble here, and this just burned everyone who couldn't make it on fuel on the waiver rounds. He was all the way back towards the rear end of the field, trying to fight here with Bellacino, one of the Nexus cars, as well had Dustin Johnson behind. Just slid up way close, and Bellacino had none of it.
Interesting that brought out a caution. He was down on the apron. But it flies, and yeah. If Michael Luzer had stayed out another lap or two, that gambler staying out under the previous caution would have paid off. Matt Forcarper will get the lucky dog, so his gamble of pitting will work. He'll get back on the lead lap. This is Leahy's engine going boom earlier on.
Yeah, and you're going to see he's picking up a lot of dirty air. This is going to kick up the temps because there's so much draft. He realizes a bit of the problem. Tries to get into clean air, but at that point, if you're in the red for so long, or try and lift off a little bit, it can even just trigger the blown engine. That triggers the blown motor when it goes to lift a bit for the bottom. Bye-bye race car for Keegan Leahy.
Everyone is on pit road getting a top-up of fuel and some fresh rubber. Chris Shearburn wins the race off. Michael Conti second, Alfala third, no change there. Kerwin jumps Novak. Case and Plot behind him. We got to talk about Case and Plot. What a run he's having up here against some of the best in the business.
Yeah, he's run some short track races in Bandoleros, has run as well in the Snowball Derby back in 2017. Fairly known for having his own short track and oval team in recent years that does hold its own at times. When you put him in a good car, he can perform well. And guess what? He's performing well. He stayed up in the front much of the day. He's qualified well. He stayed up inside the bottom half of the top 10 all day.
Going to be about 15 to go when we catch the green next time. 2 cautions in this race. 3 cautions in this race. I'll correct myself. And it is going to come down to an absolute sprint to the end. A few cars going to get a wave around here. Ocean Walsh will put himself 1 lap down instead of 2. Blackfoot as well. Lucer as well.
Then it's with the time of the wave rounds. They were already nearly getting lapped. That's how slow they were going. Because they also had no draft since they started on the older tires for the restart and couldn't keep up. This is only going to put them 1 lap down on the pylon, so this time of the caution flag, they needed a couple laps sooner. This completely just burned them, and guess who looks like the genius? Matt Forcapa, who is your lucky dog with this caution flag.
Yeah, that little discussion the two of us had. Forcapa went your route, Lucer went my route. Well, how did that pan out? Forcapa now is... Where is he? I can't find him on the pylon.
He's 26.
There he is. 26, there you go. On pit road, getting some fuel now.
I'm scratching my head here, though, on Eric Smith, because he did not pit, and he is not coming down this time. I don't know about this call for him.
Remember, he brought out the second caution of the day. Now, does he think that older tyres, given track position, can fend off newer rubber? They did about 30 laps in that stint. I'd say that's way too much for old tyres to hang on, but we're going to find out.
You know what? We talked about the tire stints. There's 5 sets total, 4 in the pits. If I'm looking at this right, with him having that incident and having to get some of the repairs done before he might have already used a set. Well, so he might be trying to stretch it out here and might not be able to take another set unless he gets an air caution here and has the fresher lap tires for the end of the race.
This is going to make things very interesting then. So Shearburn won't have the lead for the restart, but Smith is going to be slow. These guys are going to have to be careful. when they head up through the gears, because through the corner, he's going to be off pace. The rest of them are going to be flat out. Going to get dicey. 14 to go when we cross the line, coming to the green. Smith in control on old rubber. Carefully, don't spin the tyres up when you plant that throttle. Nice and smooth, and away we go. Smith leads us to the green. 14 left at Kansas. Right there, Conti with nowhere to go. Trying to get to the outside, he checks up. Everyone behind him. Real Fowler really losing out as 3 wide. And to the front goes Chris Shearburn on the outside. But in front of him, Casey Curran. What a restart. They are 4, 5 wide through the tri-oval, deep in the pack. Whoa, Eric Smith is struggling. And around he goes. That's going to bring out another caution. And there's a few cars caught up on this one, Justin.
If not just a massive snap, a bunch of drivers are going to be unhappy on the radio here. What in the world, once again?
Well, that's what old tyres does. No pace. You can see immediately through turn 1 on the restart that Conti was desperate to not get stuck behind him, and that triggered the first mess. And then right here, Smith is struggling, then sliding, gets a hit from behind.
That's Patrick Moose, who gave him a little bit of a nudge, tried to lift off, it looked like, but eventually you can't just completely stop the brake there at that point, or else you get ran over, and that point just triggers Smith up that track to Reynolds, and it's just Calamity Corner.
Bump right there. Nothing. Honestly, I mean, the blame's not with Eric Smith there. He didn't do anything wrong on that restart. It was on everyone else to get around him. It is not against the rules to not have enough tyres left. I mean, that's just bad luck, and Patrick Moose probably not aware that Smith was on old tyres, and as a result expected him to get back on the gas. And he didn't. So, caution 4 flies. We'll try again.
Yeah, that was absolute madness, and now get your popcorn out because the short run pace is going to be what matters. Here's the bright side. Ryan Luza was the luckiest out of that whole incident, Ryan, because he nearly got demolished in that, and I think they all just crashed around him, and he was just able to avoid any incident points. Boom, he's your lucky dog.
There you go. Yes, my strategy's coming good again. So he gets back on the lead lap. He'll probably come in and grab some fresh tyres here once he completes this lap back. Boyd Hogan's down on pit road as well.
He's had some damage from some of the earlier contact. Valentino got demolished in that. Will Norden got some damage. Blake Reynolds, of course. He had the Coke bottle nearly pop open on him. This is going to get ugly, though, because there's still a few decent laps left on the bottom of the racetrack. The main thing's going to be, once they shuffle up to the top here during this run, who is up there and who's able to carry the momentum forward, because that can determine who wins this race if we get to that mark with about 3 to go.
So Casey Kerwin, I mentioned this a little bit earlier on, he was in the mid-pack for most of the... Now he's up front and he's leading the race. Fantastic restart from him. He went from 5th to 1st by the time he reached turn 3 on that restart. Michael Conti in behind him, been up there all race. Chris Shearburn, Novak, Alfala as well. Case and Plot taking it to the big boys today. Nick Ottinger, Santiago Tires, Seth the Merchant, Ryan Doucette. That top 10 is so good. Any one of them could win this.
Yeah, well, especially with some of the argy-barginess and how aggressive I think drivers are going to be here off the jump. Based on the time, maybe 8 laps to go and get back racing. So it gives about maybe 5-6 laps to be able to try and dive it up with full throttle. That point on forward, though, the tires may die off if we don't get a quick yellow. I think we might see 3 wide for the lead, honestly, once again. This is about to get crazy. Yeah, it's going to get crazy here. You have to do it. You have to make the move.
Seen it twice already. 3 wide for the lead today. Last race in the NASCAR iRacing series this week, 2 days ago, they had a green light checkered on top split. Strength of field there was about 4,000, I think. Strength of field now is 6,500. Do we get to the end under green? Do we have another caution? Do we go to checkered? Lights are out of the pace car. We're going back green this time by 29 cars left on the lead lap. 2 cars a lap down. Walsh and Blackford. They'll be praying for a caution.
Looks a little bit of restart games coming up here. Conti trying to just challenge Kerwin to get close to that pace car.
Couple of them weaving their cars and warm up those tyres as much as they can. Casey Kerwin, ice cool, keeping us calm. But Denny Hamlin Esports going to lead us back to the green here. If we can get a jump like he did last time, you should pull a bit of a gap. But a gap isn't good. But the way the draft works, you'll get reeled in very quick. So Casey Kerwin takes us back to the green flag. Holds us, and now he goes. And he goes well. Conti slots in behind him. Chris Shearburn has got Alfalla right under his bumper.
Good launch for Kerwin. Now it's going to be important to play on the defense here since everybody's ready to try and peel him off the bottom here.
Zach Novak, the only one off the bottom right now. Trying to roll around a lane off the top, on board with him. Holding his ground. Should get some good momentum off the exit there as well. Shearburn will watch as Conti gets to the back of Casey Kerwin, who gives him the inside. And Michael Conti looking to take it away. Shearburn's got the momentum. Does he make it 3 wide here? He's got no room to do so. Gives Conti a push.
Wouldn't it be a smart move if he tried to dive it completely down to the bottom side of the racetrack there? Right here. Here we go.
3 wide. Up front. At the line. That time, it was Conti. And here comes Alfalla as well as Shearburn takes the lead away. Kerwin starting to lose out. Led us on the restart. Now he's back to 4th. 3 wide. 2 lanes deep. What a move from Conti to get to the inside of Kerwin and Shearburn. But he doesn't have the momentum. Loses out. Checks up Alfalla. 4 wide for 2nd place. Through the tri-oval. 5 laps to go.
I don't know if there's going to be enough space here in the corner.
4 wide. And they're holding it. Still 4 abreast. Remarkable racing up inside of the top 5. And it's Shearburn that leads us. There's the contact and around. And that collects a bunch. That is a lot of cars torn up this time. Caution flies. We're going to go to a green light checkered.
That was coming. With how close Conti was trying to side draft the back end, I believe it was Doucette. Man, this is about to get even more crazy, though, than what we just seen, probably.
Oh, they almost made it. So close. And then they didn't.
Yeah, you see the side draft. It was actually the Tira specifically with Doucette on the top, and they were very, very close to making contact that entire back straightaway. But eventually, somebody's going to have to turn down here. Conti's got a good half a lane below him. Tyrrell is trying to turn down knowing this, and Conti just continues to stick where he's at. It's almost 50-50 with that, but everyone else just has no time to react. Luza, Maines, Levine, the Merchant, all demolished there in the checkup effect.
Berullier gets a bit of it as well. Case and Plot went into the bumper of Michael Conti as he got into the side of that other car, sorry. So he might have a bit of damage as well. For the most part, he got through. The onboard with Loser. The seas parted for a minute, and then Maines came down, and he had nowhere to go. I think he's still on the racetrack. Hasn't pitted. Still running in 12th.
Yeah. The only consolation I can think of with Tierras 2, not with just the space, is if you're not completely 3 wide, as in side by side with the car, you might not get the in-car spot telling you there's going to be a car to the inside still in that space. That's the only thing I can think of there to comprehend. But at this point, I don't know who can win this race. It comes down to who carries the best momentum off turn 4 in the last lap here.
Yeah, this is going to be dicey. We've got 3 attempts at overtime here. Green, white, checkered. You come back, you get the green flag. You have a lap to wreck. As soon as the white flag is shown, you're racing back to the checkered flag no matter what happens. If a caution comes out before that white flag is shown on that 1 lap after the restart, then we'll try again. 3 attempts to do so. We've seen a few green, white, checkered attempts this season already.
But here's the kicker with this one, with so much momentum being carried around here, Ryan. Whoever's got the run, they got to send it. You seen that move with Sherburne on the backstretch? That happens on the last lap. He might risk going underneath the white line because that technically is in bounds because it's not a yellow line per se. The top part's going to be, will the driver above him give him the space, and that could cause the chaos. It wouldn't be a smart move, but it's some of the desperation moves we may see here if you get any sort of shot to take this win.
Nick Ottinger in 3rd could be in place to make that move. I think he's in a good spot here. Kerwin's going to be on the outside. Outside hasn't worked too well for the first lap or 2 off the restart. Shearburn, though, is going to get run down by the draft from behind of Ottinger. And then the rest of the pack is going to play a part in this as momentum shifts up and down the order, lane to lane. One to go when we cross the line here under the caution.
Most cars,
yeah?
Go ahead.
A few cars stayed out that got a little bit of that wreck. As you mentioned, Michael Loser. Michael Guerrilla staying out as well. I think John Gorlinski stayed out after getting involved in it a little bit. Case and Plot has stayed out as well. He got a piece of it. So there might be a few damaged cars caught up in this as well. Garrett Maines.
Yeah, it's a track position ploy at this point because I don't think if you get damage repaired, you're going to get the spots where you were back in 2 laps unless the whole field piles up down the back straightaway on the last lap. They, depending on how severe it is, may be able to hold on, but it's not going to be as simple as, let's go full throttle, I'm going to stay where I'm starting this run. The cleaner cars are going to try and prevail here. The thing is, the back half of the field has a lot of side damage and aerial damage to the cars from earlier contact to the fences.
Well, this is going to get fun. Green, white, checkered. Attempt number 1 from Kansas Speedway. It is Chris Shearburn and Casey Kerwin the front row. Ottinger. Novak on row 2. Pace cars off. Shearburn's on the gas. Here we go. Good restart. Kerwin aggressively dives in front of Ottinger. So Kerwin's got himself to the inside. This is good for him. Look at the gap that Shearburn's got. That's going to get run down here.
And nice and simple. Now the main thing is, though, how much momentum can they carry down this back to try and plan things up for the front stretch to come to the white?
Look at Novak opening up the corner. Sorry, Kerwin opens up the corner. Cuts back for the exit. Shearburn turns left and blocks him. White flag is out. There's 1 more lap left to go at Kansas Speedway. Shearburn's got the edge. Kerwin on his outside. Ottinger down low, now pushing Shearburn. Down the back straight for the final time. They're 3 wide for 4th behind them. Still Shearburn has it. He drifts up the racetrack. He loses the bottom. Can Ottinger put his car there? He's trying to block Kerwin now with Shearburn. Look at the move from Alfala in the grass. Wrecks Ottinger, but Shearburn is going to win.
What a car for Shearburn tonight. What a drive to hold on. What in the world, though, was Alfala thinking?
I don't know. I think he lost the rear end. Coming off of 4 and ended up in the grass. Tried to turn right to get back on and, well, cleaned up Nick Ottinger. Didn't cost him any spots, though, for Nick. Alfala picks up 1. Here we go. Watch the left turn off the exit. In fact, neither of their spots are affected. What a race. What a finish. Chris Shearburn gets it done. The lead was the place to be for that restart, Justin.
Yeah, that was a really good race overall with a lot of different contenders here. Alfala was good in the middle of the race, but once Shearburn, I think, made some adjustments, was in the good position to try and push, the clean air just helped benefit him and just help him stick in this race lead. What a job by Shearburn tonight.
What a job. He wins. Round 32 of the NASCAR iRacing Series. Casey Kerwin comes up just short from going back-to-back. It's second place for him. Nick Ottinger in third. Ray Alfala picks up 4th ahead of Ryan Doucette in 5th. First of the non-Coke Series drivers. Then comes some more Coke Series drivers. Zach Novak, Michael Conti, John Gorlinski, Brendan Cole in 9th. What a run from Case and Plot to finish 10th.
11th spot is Guerrilla Justin Bolton in 12th. Kane Cook in 13th. All the way from the 30s, Eric Smith deciding to try and run on 35 4-lap-old tires on a restart. Gets collected and it still finishes 14th. The car he squished into the wall, Blake Reynolds finishes behind him in Blake Reynolds. Lloyd Hogan, Carson Hocevar, Ryan Luza, Balacino, and Mooch, your top 20.
21st, Dylan Duvall in the end. Garrett Maines 22nd behind him. 1,100 point lead for him, by the way, in the overall standings. Justin Johnson 23rd, Will Norton 24th, Justin Levine 25th, and Demerchant behind him. They're the last cars on the lead lap. For Carper ends up 27th, ahead of Ossian Walsh, Brian Blackford, Tucker Minter, the rest of the field, all retirement. Santiago Tires, Keegan Leahy, Jose Solis Jr., Christian Challoner, Jimmy Mullis, and Nathan Harrison Lyon.
What a race, to say the very least, and this is a good preview of what to expect come Tuesday, because a lot of these drivers are going to have some things to tweak, but a lot of them, I think, are going to be happy with their end-of-race pace. Conti's going to be quick. Shearburn might be quick. Curious how drivers like Zelensky are. Leahy was quick with massive aero damage. Kerwin was quick. Alfala was quick. Just about half the Coke field was quick tonight. But another good half of the field are going to have to go back to the practice shop and try and figure out, okay, how do I find to match the speed of my fellow technical alliance mates, and how do I avoid potential carnage, to say the very least, in the Coke side of things come Tuesday?
For the Coke Series drivers, a lot learned that they can take into Tuesday night. For everyone else, a lot learned in how those drivers race. A lot of experience for them as well. And they got to race with some of the best. And some of them really took it to them. Looking at you, Case and Plot. What a race, though. What a day. Another edition to the NASCAR iRacing Series wraps up. We will be back next time when we head to Texas Motor Speedway. Same time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time next Friday night. Make sure to go and like SimSpeedy Sports Network as well on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to stay up to date with all of our latest broadcasts. Live on the iRacing Esports Network as well later on tonight. The Major Series International region, the Bathurst 500. Us internationals love our Bathurst races, so that should be a mega race. Make sure you check that out at, well, at 3:45 a.m. Eastern Time, or check the replay if you don't want to be awake at that time, or if you're in Europe, it'll be live for you. But for tonight, from myself, Ryan Jones, Justin Prince alongside me, and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
fantastic. This is GT Racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Section's very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh, no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh, my God.
God, what?